What prompted this is the release of Steve's book in aid of the food bank, Walton Pier Bowl.
It was just, I met up with Steve one time, he just happened to come down there, and we knew what was going to happen to the pier, and that was how we go. I had so much in my loft that I need to get rid of now, and yeah, all over to Steve.
What your reaction, because you were very emotional and were very upset about the pier bowl being demolished, and I remember remembering then my memories of how it started. And I just kept, in my mind, I thought, when things get demolished, they get forgotten.
Yes.
And therefore, that's what prompted me to think about writing down some sort of archive or record. And then you brought in loads and loads of people and ideas in your archive.
Well, the history, there's so many bowlers. You go around the town and ask them, did you used to bowl? Oh yeah, I was down there.
Everyone used to bowl back in the day.
Everybody. It was like
all ages.
Yeah.
And this is a way of keeping the memory going, and that's
exactly
one of the reasons why.
Yes.
Because it's easy for everyone to
When you
forget
say
it.
everyone bowl, were they in different league teams on different
different
nights?
leagues, different ages, from juniors. Juniors, it was the equivalent of going to the pitches on a Saturday morning. All the kids would go down the pier, their mums would drop them off, mums and dads would drop them off, and they bowl in the morning for...
Because going before that, the idea of the place was Charlie Goss. He decided he wanted 9 lanes. And
then being an odd number, that odd number, the odd lane was for him to bowl privately on his own.
And you had
That's why it was lane 9.
leagues every night, twice.
Yeah, 2 leagues every night.
Nice.
It just took off like
What year
mad.
did he start the bowl?
Sorry?
What year was the bowl started?
1964,
And I can remember
4th of February.
my mum applying for a job because they started advertising for staff once they were getting near to the actual opening. So I can almost time it exactly. January 1964, we just arrived in the town from up north, and my mum was looking for work. And I remember she was really hassling the pier manager, the bowl manager, Keith Hale, who's an American. And at the end of sort of 5 days, he literally said to her, my mum repeated this, he said, well, Mrs. Walker, I think I better give you the job if only to stop you ringing me. So that was my mum, very determined, very sort of persistent, and she got the job as a receptionist.
So you all knew that the bowl was going to open, living in the town. Everyone was excited about it.
I wasn't here then.
later.
I wasn't till about 4 years later.
But you remember it opening, your mum was excited,
Steve.
and people in the town were excited that it was going to open.
Yeah. And
Well,
so,
bowling was just taking off in the early 60s, and obviously 60s, 70s was probably the heyday at its highest level. Bowling alleys opening all over the country, small, big. Just one of those sports that gripped a lot of people.
But am I right in thinking there weren't that many bowling alleys in this area, so that's why people use the Walton Bowl? Was that
Yes, because we are situated where we are.
Yeah.
Unlike if you live in land, there's a bowling alley here, there and everywhere. You had to go, in fact there wasn't one in Colchester.
the nearest one was Ipswich.
Ipswich was the nearest one.
All the American air bases.
And the American air bases,
That's
which
how-
we used quite a lot.
That's how bowling got into
Because
the
all
country.
American air bases had their own bowling alley.
So our bowl was
Suffolk.
quite special, wasn't it? Because it was kind of in its own place at the back of the pier. Like,
Well,
can you
it's the
describe what is it like?
It's the only one in the North Sea.
Was it a theatre before?
Yes, there's a photo
So
there. So
the ceiling was like that, and it was 30 feet high. They could never heat the place because all the heat just went straight up to the ceiling. But yeah, it was quite a unique building, and the sound was quite unique as well, wasn't it? The sound of
The sound of the skittles, falling, or the pins falling over, and the smell. That's the first thing. The lacquer or the oil that they used on the lanes to keep them in good condition.
Yeah.
That sort of smell was so kind of evocative, and I think every bowl had that smell, didn't they? Because they
It
all
did,
used the
because
same sort of
obviously if
oil.
you can imagine a wooden lane, if it wasn't protected with either polyurethane or oil, as soon as a ball hit it, it would leave a scorch mark. And so they had to be looked after properly every day, otherwise they wouldn't last And that's why obviously I suppose in modern times they've gone over to synthetic, because obviously cost and the maintenance, that's the thing.
Easy to install now.
So was the bar open every day?
Every day, 7 days a week.
Christmas
Something
Day.
From
We used to bowl Christmas Day with Charlie Goss.
Yeah.
He'd say, meet me down there 10 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
No heating on.
Yeah.
He'd be bowling in a coat.
Every day, 9 o'clock till sometimes midnight, and sometimes even further than that, because we'd stay behind and have a little bit of fun.
There was a bar there. Was there
That's
a bar?
probably another conversation.
There was a bar, there was a little
Coffee shop.
coffee shop. which-
American style coffee shop.
with burgers, which was still relatively unique. You know, there was like slightly American
Yeah.
vibe going on in there. American sport, obviously very big over there. Being introduced into Britain, you got hamburgers, you got the bar, you got pinball machines. I remember them; they were
Yeah.
one of the things. So there was a little bit of entertainment as well as the actual 10-pin bowling. And it just felt like a really lovely club and an atmosphere that was friendly, with a little bit of competition. But there was just such a good feeling. People would want everybody
come
to
down,
do
wouldn't
well.
they wanted to come down and play against us, and it didn't matter. We still have a beer afterwards instead of them running away and crying after we beat them, of course. But
But they always push the family element of the place.
mainly due to the Goss family
Yeah. There's
and the workers. Chris,
a handful of
Chris
people that
Jim
really
Campbell.
made the place, aren't they?
Absolutely, yes.
Um,
Chris, I think,
Chris
stands
Winter.
out. Chris Winter.
Amazing guy who helped us all
Yeah,
in our bowling.
He started the junior league and he coached people because it was brand new. No one had done anything. I mean, you had kind of crown green bowling, but there's nothing like that. So you had no kind of template.
There was nothing to compare it to, so we just made it up as we went along, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, you've got this great big ball and your fingers are in it and it weighs, you know, a fair amount, a few pounds. Then suddenly you're leaning over with this ball and then trying to roll it down this narrow lane and get down as many pins as you can.
Sounds a bit weird at first when you say it like that.
but we found out it's practice and practice.
Yeah,
and
like
practice.
it, like
And
on
we're
sport.
so
Yeah.
grateful for the staff and for the owners. They say, "Come on, you carry on, go on, you keep bowling.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. If we need the lane, don't worry, we'll sort it out."
Yeah, yeah, they were right behind us 100%, which was an amazing thing.
And that was to anyone who could hardly bowl to
Yeah.
the higher standard.
But we've always said that, you know, it didn't matter what standard you were, everyone's got such a happy memory and story to tell.
Yeah.
Which most of it's in the book, but you could do another 3 books, I think, if people come forward.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, would probably think again now and think, yeah, I could put something in that.
Yeah.
So there was a group of people who were like bowling regularly for pleasure. So it would be something you do on like the weekends and on a Friday, Saturday night. And then there were a few people that also were in leagues, and then a few of you went on to play both for county and for national. Is that right?
That's how it went. And
And it helped Chris Winter being there because he could draw the ball. So if you got enthusiastic about it, think, oh, coming down every week, you go to his ball shop, you get a ball drill.
because I remember going down as a junior when I first started about 14, and my ball would be a red and blue speckled ball, number 65, and someone else would be using it. I wasn't happy bunny, was I? So
Because they had house balls,
they're all
which were like
house balls, so loads of house balls,
Different
and
weights.
all the holes slightly different. So there'd always be one that would
just
roughly fit you.
But then if you could afford it, you got your own ball and it was drilled to your specifications, so it fit like a glove.
Fit your
Then
hand
you were
perfect.
really stepping up, you know, into like serious bowling.
I think the lightest ball you could get is 8, and you got up to 16. That was it. 16.
Yeah, you weren't allowed anything over a £16. That was the top weight. But most bowlers found them too heavy.
Yeah.
And even professional bowlers today, they don't use, not many of them use the top weight. 15 seems to be the popular weight for a ball. But
There were quite a few pictures of you with medals on and trophies in the exhibition. Were some of the competitions held on the pier? So some of them were also home games. Do you recall any good ones? Or maybe
Inter-county matches, we had a few, didn't we?
With that, which Jackie took the trophy.
Which is
And we had a match play singles. This is another idea of Chris Winter.
This particular
Singing.
tournament here
Up on the
was a
up
single.
on the left, you'd have 100 bowlers enter it, and then you go down to the 32. You have for 2 weekends, then go to one weekend where the finals were, which would start about 8 in the morning, wouldn't it, and finish at 8 at night.
Yeah, long day.
So there were club championships,
Yeah, club
like
championships.
annual championships, and then obviously each league would end, and then the top team in the league would get a trophy. But then you had competitions that were open to all. So you'd get people coming from London, from Ipswich, from quite a distance to play in these essentially regional or even national. I remember something called the East Coast Classic.
Classic, yeah.
So it was like, you know, Walton's reputation began to build, and people would come down and enter these competitions where I think some of it was mostly money, wasn't it, and trophies.
Yeah.
There was sponsorship.
All the leagues when all the leagues started, they had their own individual sponsors. Most of them.
Yeah, House of Hartley, Doug Hartley.
Local tradesmen
Yeah.
would sponsor a league. I don't know how they would sponsor it back then.
They'd just give you a first prize of £100 or £200,
Yeah.
something like that. But
And everyone had shirts printed and
your own shirts.
it's quite.
RAFA, I remember the RAFA, the Royal Air Force Association.
Curtis Bell and Smith, they were a local carpet company.
The lifeboat had their team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it touched every part of Walton, and every family must have known somebody who
Yeah.
was bowling, or their children were at the junior club, or they heard about it. And of course, it was in the Gazette every week, all the results.